Welcome to Betting Weekly Premier League Show. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright. I did think, Nigel, that you were in New York for this one, but you are, packing your case and you're there tomorrow. Is that right?
100%, Dan. Flying out tomorrow. Well, when this recording will probably go live, I will be in New York. But we're recording it a day early on the Wednesday. I'm flying out on Thursday. Myself and Sean Cavill will be out there for the weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Looking for some tennis. Looking for some cash and tickets. And be able to follow us on the Instagram account. So yes, I'm here now. That's why we're doing it on the Thursday, on the Wednesday night, not the Thursday.
Sorry, I got my wires crossed. I thought we were going to do it from this swanky hotel that you've been selling us. Do you know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to the Instagram.
The Wi-Fi doesn't work there.
It's that swanky. It's $700 a night. Yes. It's $700 a night. Nigel was telling us, and he can't get the Wi-Fi.
I need to go to Sean's B&B in Queens at $30 a night to get the Wi-Fi. It looks good.
It's got the best. It's got the best dial-up there at Sean's.
Yes.
That's him on the
Oh
bike,
my word! Jack, any week 2 observations? 7 winning favourites across week 2, including all bar one at minus money. The top 3 from last season are currently in the top 4, and all of the promoted clubs are in the bottom 6. It's easy, isn't it? It's very predictable, the Premier League. Is that right?
I've got to be very careful what I say here, not to do myself out of a job, innit? But I get where you're coming from with it, of course. Yeah, we kind of know which sides are likely to win when they're not playing each other. It's trying to get the way around getting them on side, isn't it? Do you want to take a massive handicap? It's, as we always said, it's sniffing out the value as opposed to potentially just throwing out, they're going to win, and it's not the way to do things, and long-term profit, etc. So, yeah, it's taken a familiar shape, let's put it that way. But there's always some surprises along the way, and I say it's about finding those right bets.
Unders were
Nigel's done because he's cashed 2 of his.
Well, he's flying. Yes, we'll
dogs.
get. Don't worry. We get to look. Unders profitable again. We had 31 match days last season where we had a full card, 10 games. Only 6 of those 31 match weeks we saw unders profitable. We've had 2 on the spin. They didn't have 3 on the spin last season, so you never know. Unders could be here to stay. And Nigel, we've got a 4-unit play this week.
Incredible! It's the biggest unit play. Do you know what? If someone said
4-unit,
I know, but listen, we do not know the picks when they come through. Now, if someone said to me this was a 4-unit play this week, I'd be like, no, this is not. There's been better opportunities to draw, but because this new system, we don't know what's happening. It's sort of fate has happened. It's a 4-unit play. Just going back to the unders, that's one of the reasons why I've upgraded to first class tomorrow, which you'll be able to see on the Instagram account. But coming home, it could be economy. I could be sitting with Sean Cavill on the way back. That's the difference.
Transfer deadline day as well this week. First weekend of the season of the 17 surviving Premier League clubs from last term, an average of 0.8 of their new signings started. So, in terms of this weekend, Jack, Nigel, there's going to be a blaze of publicity for certain signings. But from a betting point of view, for this weekend at least, and maybe even for the next weekends, does it matter, Jack, do you think?
It's just trying to work out which one of 7 Chelsea signings are going to start this weekend between now and Friday. You need to keep a handle on it, don't you? But generally speaking, I think as we now get really close to kick-off, you don't tend to see someone get thrown in completely out of the blue. So it's one to keep an eye on, obviously watch what's going on. It's the exits probably the most important rather than the incomings. You've got some real big players, if they're linked with moves away, and that comes to pass, then yeah, absolutely that could have an impact. So we're obviously going in as we know it right now. We can't kind of get our mystical ball out for this particular one in the transfer market. It's tough enough going through the card as it is. But it's probably the exits I'd say would be more ones to watch out for than the incomings now.
Nigel, your sort of thoughts on transfers? I mean, I think we were speaking a few weeks ago, and you were saying when it came to the Championship, and I know this is Premier League, but it's the players that sort of leave the sort of lesser lights and maybe lower down the leagues. You're looking what's happening to sort of Burnley and Leeds and one or two others. And if you're betting futures, in late July, early August, think the landscape can change so much. I mean, I'm not quite sure that applies to the Premier League, but, it is fraught with danger, isn't it? Because you don't know the shape of squads, the makeup of the squads, until that transfer deadline day is done and dusted.
I do think that the market reacts to big signings. And, teams that spend a lot of money in the transfer window, everyone thinks, they bought that such and such player, they bought that player, they're going to move, they're going to do good. But I think the market actually actually comes down to the right market within 3 or 4 games, it's very, very hard to throw some people in. I mean, we've seen in the Championship, I'm referring to the Championship game, Leeds have now suddenly got a little bit better. Birmingham, who wasn't great in the first week of the season, now getting better and better. There will come a time where those players gel and they'll be rated at 1.20, minus 120 away from home, and they'll win 4-0, 5-0. They're going to hit. That's what's going to happen. And the same with the Premier League. I just think sometimes when you have too many new faces, the reaction is we're going to bet them, and we're going to bet them now. But I do think it's a better time to just watch them, just have a look at them, see what they're going on, see how they gel, and then the time to hit will be in a few weeks' time. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not really getting involved today in many teams that are really heavily involved in the transfer market.
Let's kick off with the early game, 7:30 Eastern Saturday. Now, we've not got official plays in this, but it is the first game of the weekend. Brighton have been very busy when it comes to the transfer dealings this summer and still getting players coming in. They're away at Arsenal. Arsenal are minus 315 here, Nigel. Brighton are plus 750. Draw plus 450. Both got 100% winning records so far. Arsenal are shortest price against Brighton that they've been for 5 years. We know that they've got a good record here. Is there any sort of angle in potentially for this early game for stateside bettors to get involved in? Or is this one, as you said, Brighton have got an awful lot of changes here. Yes, they've started well, but one maybe to leave alone or just a minor lean to it. How do you see it?
Well, I was actually tempted to have a play on this match, but obviously now I've gone for a lean. It hasn't made my top 3, but I was quite tempted to be here. Arsenal had a statement win last week against Aston Villa, and they played and they had a win as well in the first match against Wolves. But in both matches, they never played really well. They didn't play as good as they could do. But to win 2-0 and to win ugly is something that you don't associate with Arsenal, and you haven't associated with Arsenal over the last couple of seasons. They've got better and better. They've known how to game management. They've known how to play and win games not playing well. That wasn't the case, and that was a big win for me. Obviously, Villa missed a couple of big chances in that match, and it could have been very, very different. But Arsenal got the 2-0 win and got 3 points on the board. Brighton, I think the market now has sort of fell in love with them. I mean, we know who they're owned by. We know that he's a most astute person who, in terms of buying talent across Europe, he's bought a manager here where every time he buys a manager, that's it, they're finished. He got rid of Potter. They're finished. Got got rid of De Zerbi, and now he's got this guy who's been sensational. But let's be fair. I mean, okay, they beat a very poor Everton day 1-3-0. Manchester United match, they were very lucky with Xerxes putting the ball in the back of the net when he should have just left the ball at very change. But they were the better side, but they were quite fortunate in that win. Now they've got a test against Arsenal. I think Arsenal have too much strength for Brighton. I think the changes will come in. Arsenal, we know, were the best team at home to win 2-0. Arsenal had the best defensive record in the Premier League. They've got the best goalkeeper in the Premier League who's actually got better in the first 2 matches. I believe, he was a man of the match against Aston Villa. Shows you that kind of level. And he was also, I think he was a man of the match against Wolves as well. So you've got a defensive that's got better. So if you're looking at minus 315 on Arsenal to win this match, I think you've just got to look at the plus 114 with Bet Rivers to win 2-0. Last season they won 3-0 and 2-0. There was, Brighton have given them problems in the past, but this is a very, very different Arsenal side who seem to be on a mission. They believe they can win the title this year. And I think at plus 114, but the way to do it on the Bet Rivers website is to bet Arsenal on the money line and to bet Brighton under half a goal scored. And that will return you plus 114. And I believe that is the best way to play this match rather than the minus 315 to win. Now, that is a good argument. So you've got to stay with this shoe because you wait till the best bets come.
Yeah. Speaking of arguments, Jack, you're going to make an argument against that because you've gone for a goal scorer play, but it's not an Arsenal goal scorer play. No, it's not an official play, it's a lean.
It is a lean, yeah. Again, it's a real tough one to go. I wanted to get Arsenal on side, and Nigel's right. It's that win 2-0, both teams to score no approach is the one that really does catch the eye. I just felt for me that Brighton have shown they've got that attacking instinct, and I think they might well cause a few problems for Arsenal. Again, best defence in the league, and I think huge that Ray has come in as now their permanent goalkeeper and had 2 exceptional games. Some of those saves that he's pulled off already this season are going to be tough to beat across the whole campaign. So that's massive for him, his confidence and the fact that they have established him as their number one. My concern would be they are throwing up some very, very good chances, and it's going to be a matter of time before someone does take one. So given that I found it a little bit of a tough one, I do fancy Arsenal to win. I don't want to take him on the handicap. I don't want to go against him on the handicap either. Goals could be a little bit here and there as well. So what I've gone for here is just a big plus money lean, which I try and do when I haven't got an official play. And I've gone for Danny Welbeck to score. He scored in both his opening 2 games. He obviously scored against his former club last weekend. This is another former club of his, so he could get on the score sheet against here. He'll obviously have that extra motivation to do it. And he's a guy that will sniff out a chance and he can finish. So if they do present the chances that Ollie Watkins turned up last weekend, I think you might well stick one away. And plus 480, I think that's a big price.
$300, which would you play? Arsenal for the title plus 160, Brighton top 6 plus 300, Brighton top 10 minus 250. Nigel, quickly, which
Arsenal
one of those
to win
three?
the Premier League plus 160.
Jack?
Boring, but yeah, same. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you could be right there. Although I think Brighton look nailed on for top 10, but they are.
I've realigned Brighton, I'll be honest.
Sorry, Jack.
No, so I've realigned Brighton. I had them probably 12th or 13th, and I just think I thought it was going to take a little bit of time for them to get some traction. They have hit the ground running, so I've kind of edged them up a couple of places, but I wouldn't be backing them at that price. And I say, well, we all fancied, I think, Arsenal to have a good crack at it this season, and they've only rubber stamped that impression.
No is the answer to your question, Nigel.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
know,
what it was, but no.
You summing up the 100. Yeah, that's what I was. I knew the answer before I even asked the question. You wouldn't stump 100 up any chance.
Let's get some official plays. Bingos are out early. The dollars are coming out significantly. We had a 4U play on the European show last week. We talked it up like mad. I don't know how it didn't win, but it didn't. Sorry, Stephen James. But this one hopefully will score. Leicester Villa. 10 a.m. Eastern, Leicester plus 350, Aston Villa minus 132. You've both gone for your 2-unit play here. Nigel, do you want to kick off first with your reasoning? Tell us what it is first.
Well, I mean, when you're looking at these 2-unit plays, you've got to go with someone that you really think and that's who's going to win, and that's why we're going for these.
You've had 2 on the spin, Nigel.
Yeah, and I've hit them one because they're the ones that I think that the ones who wins. And obviously the price is, you minus 132. You've got a low price. That's why you're betting the 2 units. But I think that what I've seen from Villa, I think they're in a different level to Leicester. I mean, they were. I thought they were exceptional in the first match against West Ham, 2.67 xG. Any other given day against Arsenal, they would have caused them problems. And Watkinson, we've touched on the Arsenal preview there that he would have scored. I think Arsenal were very, very lucky to be at the stage they were at the end, and Villa just couldn't convert the chances. I'm not convinced by Leicester at all. I mean, they were so lucky against Tottenham with a 1-1 draw. Last week, I opposed them with my 2-unit pick on Fulham, and Fulham got the job done. It was a bit nervy at some stage, but when you broke down the data, Fulham deserved to win that match. And I just think that this Leicester side isn't good enough in the Premier League. I don't think the players they brought in, I don't think the squad is good enough. I'm a little bit worried about the manager. I think the manager is a manager that obviously did well at Nottingham Forest, but I just think this is a big ask for him to come here after the success last year. And also I'm very, very concerned that their main goal threat is still Jamie Vardy. They were a selling club that got rid of their best player from last season. He's gone. And they look to me as a team that are reliant on one man who everyone will turn around and he's past his best. So my argument here is Villa are on a total trajectory to Leicester. It's a bit of a local derby as well. And I think Villa here will get the job done. And I think minus 132 Villa to win it. All the data suggests that they're going to convert more chances. They've got the better players, they've got a better squad. And I think Leicester are in for a very, very tough season, what I've seen in the first 2 matches. So I'm going to go for Villa, minus 132. It is my 2-unit play.
Jack, add to Nigel's assessment. What you got?
Yeah, total full agreement. Obviously, same bet. So Steve Cooper seems a bit grumpy about situation at Leicester already. And Wout Fast, their central defender, is allegedly looking for a move before the end of the window. So this is one we're talking about. If they lose another central defender, an international defender, that's going to leave them very bare at the back. Regardless of what you think of him as actually a Premier League defender or not. But yeah, the flip side of what we then talked about as far as Arsenal's David Raya being man of the match last weekend was the fact that was against Villa. And Villa had a huge amount of the ball, a huge amount of chances that could have really turned that game on its head. But the thing I like, as you said, I think Villa are probably the 4th best side in the Premier League right now. The only thing that would stop me putting them in the top 4 is what's coming up in the fact that they'll be in the Champions League. So that's not an issue at this moment in time. So I'm happy to absolutely get on board with them at this price. They have been exceptionally good. Since Emery's come to the club, only Man City and Arsenal have picked up more points on the road than them. And they did start as favourites very often last season. They were only a starting favourite in 8 road games last season. They won 5 of those and they drew 2 and only lost 1. So it shows you that normally when they're expected to go to one of the lower lights, they'll go and get the job done. They'll go and beat them. So that's where I'm at on it. So I think Ollie Watkins will be on a little bit of a redemption mission this weekend as well. So beware Leicester City, and I'd expect Villa to win this quite cosily, actually.
4-unit play. Aston
It
Villa
wouldn't be a full.
to beat Leicester.
Let's get this straight now. If this was last season and we were risking 4 units on this play, I would lose whatever's left remaining on my head of the hair. But the way this new format has happened, we don't know what's happening. So, I would just bear a word of caution to anyone thinking this is a 4-unit massive bet. Just be a little bit careful.
It's a 4-unit
it is. But there's better 4 units play along. This is week 3 in the season.
Hang on, hold the phone. Where's the better 4-unit play?
I'm risking 2.
Is this your Patreon service?
It's just, I would just be a little bit. I just think to myself, this is a 4-unit play at Aston Villa.
I've got to let the viewers and listeners into a little secret. When we introduced the 2-unit play to the European show, Nigel got on the phone. He's like, "What on earth are you doing? What are you doing with this?" And now here he is. Here he is, back-to-back winning 2-unit plays, and he's got a 4U play here. But I know he's.
But the idea was that we would have different 2-unit plays. The fact we're all in on week 3 could be an absolute disaster.
Oh, good. Right, let's crack on with more plays here. We've got Forest Wolves next up here. We're back to the 1 unit here. Nigel's got a pick for us. Forest are -103. Wolves are 265. I said Wolves were the best bet of the year last week. That went well for me. But they still won. They still won the XG battle against Chelsea in that crazy game. I'm not quite sure what to make of Wolves. I think this is going to be very different. And Nigel, you've highlighted in the past on shows last season when teams concede a lot. Next time out, it's very, very different, and that's I think that might be the basis of your play, or at least part of it.
It is, and a lot of people might have watched. We've got so many new viewers, and welcome along to everyone who's viewed this show. But the strategy I gave last year when teams have very, very heavy defeats, I think at the time Sheffield United got beat 8-0 by Newcastle.
That's right.
And the following week, I went under 2.5 goals and it cashed. They work on their defence. It's very much like American football teams when they lose 65 points. They don't, they don't usually lose. The spread doesn't really get covered by the favourite the following week. And that was my strategy here. Before we go on to that though, Dan, your best bet in the last 2 weeks has lost, actually, to be fair.
Has it? Well, what was my first
I can't remember, but there is volume 1 and a volume 2 and now volume 3 of the T-shirt, the Dan Roebuck T-shirt, which are available on the Bet Rivers website. Anyway, let's move on to this match here. I mean, there's a lot of subplots here. Obviously, Nuno Espirito Gomez going back to his former club, which is obviously a very interesting fact that you saw Eddie Howe last week going back to Bournemouth, didn't get the win. The last 2 matches last season between these two sides were both draws, so I think this is quite an evenly matched match. Gary O'Neill is a manager that I think could be a decent bet, to be the first manager to lose his job. I've said it at the start of the season, but I think the way things are going there and he's not getting the money, he's a kind of player who's got to protect his profile. And I could see him having a bit of a clashes with the Wolves owners and perhaps potentially walking here. This is different because Forest's first 2 matches this season have both been low scoring. 1-1 against Bournemouth, 1-0 against Southampton. I know they had a very, very high XG in that match, 2.86, but they both ended under 2.5 goals. The reason what you said is absolutely right. It was back to the fact that when you have a big, heavy defeat, the following week, it doesn't really work out for the overs. And I went back, I did the research years ago, and I looked at all the heavy defeats in the Premier League. And I was going to go back for every single one of them, but it's been a very busy day today, so I decided not to go through every single one of them. So
you did do it last year. You put in the hard drives last year.
I was trying to find the bits of paper around the office there, and I couldn't find it. And when I went through the matches, I thought, oh no, I can't be doing this again. But I went through. I decided to go through last season. So what I did today, I went through all the matches last season where a team had conceded 6 or more in the Premier League. And there were 7 times where a team had conceded 6 or more in the Premier League last season. And that team, the following week, 5 of them had gone unders. Only 2 the following week had gone overs. So for that reason, Forest, Wolves, Nuno back to his former club, a little bit of history. Wolves want to put in performance, not going to be happy with last week. Gary O'Neill will demand the performance. Forest not doing much as an attacking unit. So my 1 unit play is under 2.5 goals in this match at even money.
Yeah, Forest, both games so far this season have gone unders in the Premier League. And if you went best price last season, Forest at home, you did make a profit. Jack, what's your lean on this one?
I was actually tempted to go unders as well, but I just gone for a little bit extra juice in my selection, which is for a tie in the match. It's plus 265 for much of the same reasons. I think Wolves will definitely look to try and keep it tight. He'll be on the training ground this week and drilling into them the fact about the mistakes that he talked about last week. It was a mental game, obviously. And Nuno just kind of keeps Forest tight, doesn't he? They are blunt in attack, although they've got a lot of talent in attack. They don't seem to be able to click. And I think, as I mentioned last week, I think once they do get a goal, he puts the brakes on a little bit, puts the reins on them and holds them back and looks to counter. So I think it could be a tight and cagey one. As I say, the table is skewed. If you look at the table and go, Forest are storming it and Wolves are in all kinds of trouble, I think these two will probably be in the 3 or 4 places above the relegation zone come the end of the season, very tight together on points. So I'm taking this to be a very tight game as well and leaning on the tie.
Just picking up on the next manager to go, it will be first manager to go in the Premier League. Bet Rivers have got prices, incidentally. And Gary O'Neill's a 20-1 shot, Nigel, plus 2,000.
Well, I think the market's dominated by Ten Hag, isn't it? I mean,
Sean Dyche is the favourite. I'm going to come on to him in a second. Sean Dyche is the favourite.
I can't see him going. I mean, Everton have got a takeover. Well, we'll come to that match in a minute. We'll probably. Yeah. But Everton have got the new owners takeover problem, new stadium to come in. I think if they got rid of Sean Dyche, it would be an absolutely ridiculous decision. His post-match interview was despondent, wasn't he? I've got no money. What do you expect me to do? But we all know Everton get in this predicament, and then 6 games to go, they rely on their brilliant fans who get
Handshakers come in. Yeah, Google that one, younger viewers.
Yeah, but they do seem to avoid the drop.
Yeah, no, they do. Sean Dyche is plus 300 favourite to be next manager to go. Everton are plus 170 to beat Bournemouth at plus 155. This is a 10 a.m. Saturday kickoff Eastern. The draw at plus 245. Jack, you've got your hot dog for us here. Big price pick. Talk us through this one. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, I've gone for an anytime goal scorer here, and that the player in question is Antoine Semenyo, who may not be so familiar with American viewers and listeners out there. Kind of cut his teeth in the Championship and in the EFL with Bristol City mainly. He's an electric performer on his day, and I saw him a few times over the course of that time with Bristol City where he looked a well-beater, and then he'd have a little bit of a kind of either pick up an injury or have a quiet time. But he got his move over to Bournemouth, and he started this season on absolute fire. So I want to get on board with him at this moment in time. I watched him against Newcastle last weekend, and he ripped him apart. Be it with his pace and trickery, getting to the byline, crossing into the box. He created an assist. He also was very close to getting another one, just couldn't quite finish at the far post. But he can also chop inside, and he's got a great strike on him. And he smacked the crossbar last weekend, and he did score in the opening weekend fixtures as well. So I think he's a confidence player. He's obviously been given his head by the manager Riola at Bournemouth. No Solanke there now, of course. So there's room for a talisman. There's room for a guy that's going to take Bournemouth and push them up the table. And I think Semenyo at this moment in time could be that player. Of course, you need the right opportunity, and I felt this was the right opportunity to play him against Everton, who have conceded 7 across their first 2 games. Really disappointing in that opener, their first home game of the season against Brighton. And of course, then got thumped 4-0 by Tottenham, which their fans did not seem too happy about when they were boarding their train on the way home. So lots of discontent, to say the least. Goodison Park can be, as we've talked about there, the extra point or two that can drag them over the line. But when things aren't going well, it can obviously have a real detrimental effect on the players. And I have a feeling that if Bournemouth start this game well, the Everton fans are going to possibly turn on this one because it's right on a knife edge there at the moment. And I think Semenyo's that kind of player that's when his tail's up, he's got his confidence, he'll be running. Mikalenko has been left back the last couple of weeks for Everton, and I think he can get at him and he can cause problems. So I think at the price, plus 340, that's my hot dog for this weekend.
Lovely. So, man, you got 8 goals in the Premier League last season, plus 340 to score at any time in the game at Goodison. You got a lean for us in this one, Nigel? What's your thoughts on Everton, Bournemouth?
My thoughts of, we all know Everton had a dreadful start, no goals, no money, 7 conceded, goalkeepers had a nightmare. But has the market caught up with them? I mean, has the market caught up with them at plus 170 at home against a Bournemouth side at plus 155? Have we got carried away with too match form? That would be my concern here. You know, could 170 and probably even drifting could be plus 180 come kickoff time? Could that be a price that Everton think, you know, that was just too silly? You know, with a draw no bet market at plus 110 Everton, could that be a bet that we may have to take in hindsight? I mean, after the event. So I'm not quite sure whether I would want to play on the money line on either of these sides, because I think that the Bournemouth market is pretty much too short. I mean, plus 155 to go to away at Everton, I wouldn't bet that. And I think the value probably lies with Everton at plus 170, but would you trust them on the form that we've had here? So doubts about both sides. Bournemouth have drawn both their matches so far this season, 1-1, and I'm going to sit firmly on the bench in this one, and a fence on this one. I'm going to go for a draw at plus 245. That's
the lean for Nigel in that one. Everton, Bournemouth. Yeah, it doesn't sit right, does it? Bournemouth away.
No, it just seems a
favourites
little
at
bit.
plus 155.
The market sometimes gets really, really carried away on 2 or 3 matches. I don't think we should really, until we get at least a dozen matches of data. You got the champion, you got the international break as well next week as well, and things change, players come in, and I think that, you know, I think plus 155 Bournemouth, and they will get shorter. Everton could be a price that we might look back and think, well, that was a bit silly.
Let's get some.
Got an extra. Everton have got an extra day's rest, haven't they, as well? They're both in the League Cup.
The League Cup, yeah.
Whatever the side will be, we're not quite certain about. But obviously, Everton played last night, and at time of recording, Bournemouth will play. I think it's West Ham tonight. And I know money's come for West Ham today, so possibly a reaction to the fact they might well be rotated, but we'll have to wait and see.
Let's get some quick fire leans on the other Saturday games that we've not covered. Nigel, Brentford, Southampton, first of all. Anything catch your eye?
I was very, very tempted to put Brentford in as my 2-unit play actually here, but I thought that the fact that Tony looks like he's doing, the fact that he's not there. I looked at the price and I looked again. I thought, really, could I back Brentford at minus 136? The reason for this was nothing to do with the fact that Brentford are any great shakes. The fault that I think Southampton are absolutely dire. I trusted them last week against Nottingham Forest. They got 0.21 XG. They couldn't beat a 10-man Newcastle, which I gave them the benefit of doubt in week 1. 2 1-0 defeats and no real creation at all. Nothing. To me, they look a side that are really going to struggle. I love my bet at 6-1, all the promoted teams to get relegated, and I think Brentford will win this at minus 136. That would probably be a lean, but I would probably put it in a parlay rather than getting involved in any other match. But I wouldn't trust Brentford to win by 2 or more, so I was looking for an enhanced price. But I just think the Southampton are dreadful.
Jack.
Yeah, not much more to add on the two sides now. I think Wissa's been a subject of a transfer.
Steve Wisser.
Where's he going?
Where's he going?
Yeah,
been trying to get rid of him for years.
He's going to Saudi, isn't he?
Yeah, I told you he wouldn't last the heat. I can't. If Steve Wiss is up front for Brentford, Southampton are a massive bet.
And I know Steve's injured. I mean, Steve's injured ankle.
Ankle's out. Wiss is out.
Yeah. He's out.
Yeah, so it's no good. So on that note, I have gone for both teams to score no as my lean. So with Steve Wisser up front, is not going to score. Look, I talked about Southampton last couple of weeks. I'm on them to get relegated as well. I thought they were a decent price, and nothing's changed in my opinion in the first 2 weeks. Toothless up front, no creativity, as Nigel has said. Armstrong, I mentioned last week, yes, goal scorer in the Championship, just not good enough in the Premier League. And I think they've not got an awful lot there. So they stunk the place out last time and they were in it. And I think they're weaker than they were then. So I've gone with both teams to score no as my lean because, they could fluke a 1-0, couldn't they? But I don't think this is a goal fest. And it just appeared to me that was the way in.
What's the lean in Ipswich Fulham here, Jack? Because it seems to me, and I've got your tip in front of me, that you've gone back to your Norwich persuasion here with this one.
Absolutely right. I got pelters from my friends and family about what I was doing, supported Ipswich and giving them a bit of a big up. So yeah, I can't take that anymore. No, I've gone with Fulham on the money line here. I think they've been a bit undervalued in this one. I think we're getting a decent plus money on a decent, a very good Premier League side. Look, The basics of it is it's a lean, so I won't go into too much detail. Ipswich, we know, 2 seasons ago, League One. They came up, I think they were looking to be effectively consolidate last season, the Championship. The momentum they started with carried on throughout the season. They've been promoted. Fair play to them on that side of it. They've got to adjust. And I think there's this element, the fact that just because they've played Liverpool and Manchester City and been beaten, they could have conceded 5 or more in both of those games, that it's, all right, now the actual Premier League starts where we're going to win some points, and taking it as granted that it's going to be that much easier. It's not that much easier in the Premier League. I might be proven wrong. Ipswich might come out of the traps and win this and start winning games. But at this moment in time, I don't see any difference between them and a Luton and a Burnley from last season. So they've been beaten. They had 1 shot in total last weekend. Yes, they scored it and took the lead. But other than that, I just think that they're taking possibly that this will be a lot easier for them to go forward. And Fulham, we've talked about the signing of Anderson's good at the back. Emile Smith-Rowe, we've mentioned, fantastic signing. Iwobi's good. Traore's on form like he is at the moment. He's a menace. Muniz has been having chances up front, not taking them, but you know what he's like. He's a streak player. He can score 1, probably end up with 2 or 3 in a game, and then he'll go on a run of scoring. So I think they've got enough to really hurt an Ipswich side that at this moment in time, I think, as I say, are relegation certainties, and I'd put on par with a Luton and a Burnley from last season.
There you go. Nice to see you very much back in the Ipswich fold. You can show your face on Southwell Beach once again. Nigel, what you got?
Well, I must admit that the orange canary, so the yellow canary of Jack there come out very, the yellow canary of Jack come out there very, very much. I mean, I think Ipswich have been, I think they've been okay, to be honest. I thought they played quite well against Liverpool, and then they took the lead against Man City, and they're playing. Your season starts now, doesn't it? You know, your first 2 games of the season, you've got Liverpool, Man City. Your season starts now. So forget what's happened before. I've actually bet Ipswich to go down. They'd be the ones I'd be worried about, other than Leicester and Southampton. I think Leicester and Southampton, of what I've seen on the first couple of games, look a lot worse than Ipswich. I think some of the signings they've done have been quite good. A very, very good manager, as we know. But also on the flip side, I really like Fulham this season. So I think their signings this season have been fantastic. I think they're going to be the new Crystal Palace, the team that will break into the top 10, and Crystal Palace are going to come down the table on the back of Fulham's upsurge. Fulham should have won a little bit more easily than the 2-1. They did score. Emile Smith-Rowe, we said so many times, and it's a great sign. Anderson is a fantastic sign as well. But I do think both sides here, Ipswich need to get a point on the board, and my lean would be for a draw at plus 255.
Okay, cool. West Ham Man City is the 12:30 Eastern Time Saturday. Nigel, what you got for us this one? Easy win for Man City. I mean, you said both teams to score and City win, didn't you, last week for the City Ipswich game? You nailed that one. A similar vein with this one. Do you think City will win, but a little bit leaky at the back?
Exactly the same bet. City to win, both teams to score is plus 155 with Bet Rivers. That would be my lean here. Both matches last season were 3-1, home and away. Man City won them both. I was actually quite tempted to put West Ham as my hot dog. I thought plus 650 or $7 was a big price, because it's going to be a night match under the lights at West Ham. You know what it's like there. It's, you know, the place gets rocking. The champions come to town. New players, and I think West Ham are going to do well this season again. New look side, but I do think here that they conceded against Ipswich, didn't they? You know, early doors, first attack. That's their vulnerability. Their vulnerability is defence. And I do think that they're leaky here, and I believe West Ham will score at home. So very tempted to go for West Ham. I was looking at the Asian handicap, but I thought I'm going to play it safe. City to win, both teams to score, yes, because those hot dog bets aren't necessarily the way you think. You're looking for something at a big price to give you some sort of interest. But when you actually break it down, City have got probably too much. But I think City will win, but it won't be easy. I like a 3-2 City win, 3-1 City win, but I think both teams to score and a City to win at plus 155 is the best way to play it, rather than take the heavy minus money on the champions on the road.
Leans in a little bit to Jack's lean, so to speak. You've gone for a goal scorer here for West Ham.
Yeah, I thought the same process. I was kind of hoping I'd be able to get plus 1.5 for West Ham, and I'd have took that. But 125, yeah, it's just not really floating my boat. So I do think they'll score. I think it'll be tight. I think Lopetegui will set them up well here, play on the counter attack. It will suit their strengths. What I've gone for is Mohamed Kudus to score any time. He's plus 440, which I think is a big price for a real talented player. And the reason behind it, Manchester City have changed things a little bit at the back this season. Gvardiol, who was more advanced last season, is now the left back who kind of stays and makes a back three. Rico Lewis has been playing as a right back for Manchester City, and he's bombing on. We saw him in the box hitting the crossbar last weekend. So that's where they're going, which will leave the space in behind him. The one proviso to this is if they change it, Pep Roulette happens and Kyle Walker comes in, they'll probably switch that method around and I'd go the other side. But Kudos scored against him on the last day last season, so he's got form against them. And I say he's a player that can exploit his good pace. He can get in behind where the gaps are. He likes to cut inside. He likes to have a shot. And I think that could be the area where they'll look to try and exploit them a little bit. So at plus 440, he's the guy for me.
Is Rodri back in this weekend, Jack? Do we know? He's missed the first couple, hasn't he, this season?
Yeah, I'd imagine they'll leave him out, but whether then he's going to be playing for Spain or not is another question, isn't it? But I think if they leave him out, then there's more of a chance that he'll get less game time for Spain than declaring him fit and ready to go again. So yeah, it'd be an interesting one.
Let's get to Newcastle Spurs because we move on to Sunday's game and we've got Nigel's hot dog here. We've still got the same game parlay to come, so stay with us. 8:30 Eastern Sunday for the hot dog from Nigel. Newcastle plus 148, Spurs plus 150, draw plus 300. Now, obviously, a hot dog last week, Nigel, was Salah to score first. He did score in the game, and sometimes I want to impress upon our viewers and listeners, look, the boys are putting up some tips here, but obviously, you know, you can work it around it a little bit. You maybe split your stake and play first and any time. There are different ways. These guys are giving you some good advice. You don't have to play it completely as they suggest it, because obviously we're giving you a big play because that's what we're designed to do for this particular section. So, Nigel, hot dog, Newcastle Spurs, what have you found for us here?
Yeah, I actually took the minus 120 Salah to score any time as well, but I had a smaller bet on him to score the first goal, so it meant that was a winning play. So that's a great strategy to listen to what Jack and I say, or on all the handicappers on the show, and just try to convert them. Sometimes Sean Calvert gives players plus 4.5 or 5.5 games. It might be worth betting them to win on the money line at 6-1 or 5-1, because it happens invariably more often than not. Okay, let's move on to this match. Goals. Just simply as that. I mean, Newcastle's matches this season haven't really produced the goals that we would expect. But the first match of the first home game of the season against Southampton, they were down to 10 men after 20 odd minutes and had to play the rest of the game. So it changed that complexion of that match, which cost us on this show here. If you look at Tottenham, a 4-0 win last week without Solanke. Solanke should be back here. They've got a huge attacking amount of threat. Son is scoring goals. Solanke's creating chances. They look a better attacking side. Then Maddison is obviously creating chances for them as well. But just go back through the stats. I mean, 50 goals in the last 12 matches in Newcastle home matches at the end of last season, which is average 4.166 goals per game. 49 goals in the last 12 matches away from home in Tottenham games, which average about just over 4 goals a game as well there as well. Look at this particular fixture. 41 goals in the last 10 matches between these two, both home and away. And it's 50 goals in the last 10 matches between these two, both home and away. And if you look at the home record, just the matches at St James's Park, 43 goals in the last 10 matches between these two sides, which averages obviously 4.3 goals per game. The line is 3.5, and it's minus 110, 3.5. And sometimes in these matches, when you see lines at 3.5 and you think, well, I don't think they just go over by 4, they go over by 5, 6, 7. You know, when you've got a line that's 3.5 goals at minus 110 and everyone wants to bet the overs, perhaps the value sometimes is to go for the higher goal line, 4.5 or 5.5 that Bet Rivers offers. So on this occasion, very rare, you might see this in a season of unders, but I'm going to go. I would never have thought I'd ever say this for the last 2 or 3 years. But my hot dog of the week is over 4.5 goals at plus 250 in Newcastle v Tottenham. The stats back it up, but if you think 3.5 goal minus 110, just go up that, move that little line up for 4.5 and get a nice juicy price. I'd think I'd split my stakes here. I'd make sure I made a profit over 3.5, but go the extra goal as well. If you'd have said to Nigel Seeley 5 years ago, he'd be giving the XGs of all the games, it'd be going over 4.5. I tell you what. No one would have believed it. Wouldn't have happened. It would have, honestly, there was as much chance as that, me betting 4.5 and Oasis being reunited. What are the chances of that? It's been a strange week, Dan. It's a strange week.
We have got an official 1 unit play from Jack on this one as well. Correlation maybe, goals and corners, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Obviously, Jack, you'll have your own numbers for this bet.
It is a total correlation. Yeah, I've gone with the same process. I was looking at goals in it, and I've gone, well, look, we'll go with the corners because these two sides are really going to attack. Nigel's gone through the history. The history is there completely where these two teams just go for it. There's goals galore all the time. As long as there's nothing silly like another red card in this one, they're going to go at it like hammer and tong together. Whoever takes the lead, the other side are going to be all out, and the other will be then to play on the counter attack. So they both play with loads of width. They both play with loads of pace. They both have players who like to have a shot. All the ingredients for corners, and they've had an absolute boatload of corners across their opening games so far this season. Based on how they play. I don't need to go on any more around the games other than I'll just quickly tell you that against Southampton, Newcastle, they had 3 corners. Southampton had 12. Obviously, the red card played that, but 15 in total. Bournemouth, that was 9-8, fairly even split there, so 17 corners in that one. Spurs at Leicester, they got 13 corners themselves and conceded 2, so 15 in that. And against Everton, there was 17, 12 for Tottenham, and 5 for Everton. Both these sides normally feature well up at the top end of the corner league table come the end of the season. They will do again because of how they play. And yeah, this for me, it's a pretty high line, but at plus money, I'm taking over 11.5 corners at plus 102.
That's an official 1 unit play. We've got the same game parlay. Jack's on duty this week. Nigel went close last week. The European show got the SGP in. We're still waiting for the Premier League boys to cash it. It's a very, very different strategy from Nigel and Jack that we've got from Stephen James on the European show. You've got 3 elements here. Jack, talk us through the SGP. It's the big game of the week. It's Manchester United versus Liverpool. Liverpool are minus money favourites. United plus 270. Give us the same game parlay for the big game on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, Man United, Liverpool. I've had pelters for Man United fans all week because I went against them with Brighton last week. I know I'm going to have them on side this week, and I'm going to get Liverpool fans covering for me big style. It's one of those games that's going to split opinion completely down the middle, and I'm siding with Man United here, actually. We can get double chance on them as my first leg. So United all the tie is the foundations for the same game parlay. I'll be honest, there's not a load of stats that I'm going to back this up on. This is just sometimes you bet on your gut shot or the fact of how you think a game's going to play out, and that is how I've gone about this one. We saw last season 3 games between these two, both 2 games in the league, of course, and they met in the FA Cup. All 3 ended all square, 0-0 at Anfield, and then there was 2-2 draws at Old Trafford. So, yeah, that would obviously mean that this bet lands. I think that for Ten Hag, he just seems to pull a result out of the bag when he needs one. He's got a little bit of pressure on him after that performance against Brighton and another sloppy late goal conceded. At home, I think it's a little bit different. I'm happier to side with them. You can see they're trying to keep things a bit tighter as far as Mainu and Casemiro in that kind of holding role, which brings me on to the second part of it, which is Fernandes to score. He is the one who's generally pretty advanced for Manchester United. He will also, you'd assume, be on penalties like he was last season. He has scored recently against Liverpool as well. So I do think there will be a couple of goals in this game. And at this moment in time, Fernandes has been like the talisman, I suppose, for United as far as their attacking intent's concerned. And he's not quite got the reward that his plays deserved. And the final part of this would come in a bit earlier, actually. It's a half-time tie. So I'm going for it to be a tight one. I think we've got a watered-down version of Liverpool at this moment under Arne Slot. A decent start for them, but look, let's face it, they've played Ipswich, who I've already gone on record saying as they're rubbish. And then we've got, they played Brentford last week. So 2 sides that are going to be in that bottom third of the table. And I think Arne Slot himself said, look, let's not get too carried away at the minute. We've done okay, but we've got bigger challenges to come. So going to Old Trafford, I think Man United will be up for this one. The players will be up for this one, and they will get a bit of a better response. Yes, they need to sharpen things up a little bit, but I'm taking them to get the job done. This is equivalent to me swinging on a hammock in Dubai. I'm going for under so United tie, double chance. Fernandes to score, half-time tie. I'm going at odds of plus 1,400.
14-1. Nigel, your thoughts on the SGP this week?
Well, listen, I love it. I love it, the fact we're going for it. I'm going to have a word with Steve Wisson, all these plus 112.
And all these winning SGPs.
I'm not having that. I'm going to have to have a word with them boys to stop that. I think it's very, very early to have a real strong opinion on this in the early season. 2-match form, big match like this. I think Jack fell into that trap a couple of years ago. I don't want to bring it up, but he fell in this fixture come early a few years ago, and I think we do get carried away. And this is a huge fixture. Liverpool in transition. You saw Slot having a bit of a Barney with Trent Alexander-Arnold, which doesn't look good as well. You know, he was Klopp's golden boy, wasn't he, last season? So that doesn't look well. We can't really gauge Liverpool. Man United, we know they've got defensive frailties, but they've got players to bring in. Luke Shaw, when he comes back, I think he'll not shore it up, but I think he'll come in and make it stronger. Oh, we know they've got problems, but I'm going to play it very safe. I just think Salah again. I think he scores more goals in this fixture than anybody else. Any other team he's played, 14 goals in 15 matches against Manchester United, including a hat-trick. So we've got 14 goals in 15 matches against the side. Man United struggled against the flanks in the last minute of that goal. The ball went in on the left-hand side. There's no one there. That is where Salah cuts in. Plus 118 to score at any time. That would be my lead in this match.
One more game very quickly because we're running out of time. Chelsea versus Palace. This is another Sunday game here. Chelsea are minus 167. Jack, what's your lean in this one?
I've gone for over 1.5 first half goals, plus 110, generally because they're both defensively a bit of a shambles at the moment. There might be more departures for Crystal Palace. I watched them last night and Norwich nearly scored against them. So that shows you how ropey they are at the moment. They also had an injury to another centre-back. Gahey might well be on his way. We'll have to see if Newcastle can stump up the cash for that one. If he goes, it'll be absolute carnage. But they did look like they could be cut open. I said there was a couple of opportunities there. Obviously, Chelsea have an absolute ridiculous record against them, and there's an option to go in on a tie, half-time, full-time Chelsea. But I ended up going with the over 1.5 goals because I think the confidence Chelsea got at the minute, they will fly out of the traps here. And I think it's going to be open at both ends of the pitch, and Eze, Mateta can punish them, and whoever Chelsea decide to play at that end can punish them there.
Fast start as far as Jack is concerned when it comes to goals for either team. Nigel, what you got for us?
Pretty similar to Jack, really. I mean, Chelsea are minus 167 to win this on the money line, and we were absolutely slating them in week one, so they're all over the place. 84 players. They beat Wolves 6-2, and they're now minus 167. You would never have been minus 67 before that match against Wolves. You probably would have been about minus 130. So there is a big move towards Chelsea on the back of one win. I do think Palace are in transition. I do think Palace are a side to fade at the moment. They're a selling club. I think it could all turn really bad at Crystal Palace very quickly. I was actually looking at them in the relegation market because the players they're selling and the players they're bringing in just aren't good enough. I'm pretty much the same as Jack, but my best bet here, or my lean in this match, would be both teams to score and Chelsea to win, which is plus 175. I think that's a much better way to get with Chelsea. They conceded 2 at Wolves, who offered nothing. They've conceded 2 in their first 2 matches. I think Palace do have goals, but they're going to concede. So both teams to score and Chelsea to win at plus 175.
Nigel.
Chelsea have won the last 14 meetings, haven't they? As your brother would probably testify.
Have they
against
really?
Palace.
That's a good stat.
Yeah.
That's a lovely stat.
8 of the last 12 have been level at half-time.
Palace are 9-1 to go down instantly. Nigel, Jack, thanks for your company. We have overrun a little bit. Good luck to one and all. We'll keep you updated with our Twitter feeds. Just a reminder, the boys P&L so far, of course, we are still are at the embryonic stages of the season, but we'll keep you up to date with all the latest when it comes to the various markets and bets that we have. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Premier League show. We're going to be back in a fortnight's time, of course. International break coming up. Picks, plays, hot dogs, and so on. From then, we've got our live show, though, every single day in the week at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We've got the US Open tennis. Nigel, you are all packed, passport, everything all done?
I'll get someone to do that for me. I don't do that. Nah, just get a bag and go. We'll buy it we will buy it at the airport. So don't worry about that.
Nigel's going to be entertaining us via Instagram over there. How long are you going for?
6 days.
Oh my word, for 6 days in New York, what could possibly go wrong? Make sure you follow us at Because We Win and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Plenty more to come from all of the team, from all of us. For now, though, on the Premier League show, it is goodbye.